Hello, welcome to the Entrepreneurs Network. I'm Rick Anthony. What makes the difference between winning and losing as an entrepreneur? And what are the lessons to be learned from the people who tried it before and failed? And for those who do succeed, how much of their success is attributable to simple luck? Well, the answers to those and many other questions are contained in a book titled The Secrets of Entrepreneurial Success, The Entrepreneur's Yoda, Lonnie Sciambi, who is my guest today. Welcome, Lonnie, to the Entrepreneurs Network.
Thanks, Rick.
Lonnie's been a good friend for a long time, and when he wrote the book, which is his second, I think. Third book. I'll wait for the movie on the other ones. When he wrote this book, he contacted me, he sent me a copy of it, enjoyed reading it, largely because it's an easy-to-read book, short sentences, short chapters, and so on. And a lot of really good stuff in it, very practical information. Before we get to the book, let's concentrate on you, and as we always do, your background, where you're from, how you stumbled into entrepreneurialism, some of your own successes and failures. And do that in 25 words.
Wow. I can't say hello in 25 words.
You Italian people.
That's right. I'm a product of Philadelphia. I grew up, I was 12 before I realized the entire world wasn't Italian or Jewish. I graduated from Drexel, started my career here with IBM. But I knew, because of Drexel's co-op program, actually, I learned real early that I loved business. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated, I had one objective. I said, at some point in time, I want to create something that's never been there before. I want to leave a legacy of some kind. And I had no way of understanding how I was going to do that. But it was, as luck would have it, I ended up getting my very first management job was out of IBM. I left IBM to go join a conglomerate. And I ran their IT subsidiary. I started it and ran it. And I got mentored by the chairman of the board. I learned how to do acquisitions. And I learned business by studying 135 other companies. Mm-hmm. And the rest was, as they say, is kind of history. I mean, I ended up spending 20 years in and around the payment systems. Started and sold 2 companies in that space. That's where I wrote the other 2 books. I actually, at one point in time, was an ATM expert. I've put networks in all over the world. And ATM, shared ATM networks, where at one point in time you could only use your ATM at your bank.
Yeah.
And then from there, I have helped or started a dozen other companies. I invested in a half dozen others. Well, actually more than a half a dozen, as my wife calls them, the Magnificent Seven. Mm-hmm. We sold one of those. One still exists, and we'll probably make a bunch of money on that one. And the other 5 are history. and
it's not bad odds.
Well, but it's the interesting thing is, in what I do today, people have asked me if I'm a business coach or whatever. And actually, I was a coach. I've coached athletics and the like. And I used to preach to my kids. At one point in time, I said, I wish we'd lose more. They would look at me like I had 2 heads. I said, why is that, Coach? Well, because we don't analyze victories, but we learn a great deal from losses. Mm-hmm. And so that's, where I've learned everything is through failure.
We'll pick up on that, but I want to go back. So yes. You started out on somebody else's payroll.
I did.
And you were on somebody else's payroll, and you learned on somebody else's dime.
I did.
For a long time.
It was wonderful.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, actually, it was.
What made you decide, what set of circumstances, what angel came to you in a dream and said, tomorrow you're going to step off the precipice and put everything at risk, mostly your future?
Yeah, it was a...
And your families.
Actually, it was that encounter that did it. And I realized what I had fallen into, where, I mean, Rick, I was, a year after I started this thing, I had 90 people. I was the 5th youngest professional. Mm-hmm. I wasn't 27 years old when I did this. on somebody else's nickel. Plus, I learned how to do acquisitions. Woo!
Yeah.
So all of that just it lit a fire, and it took me another 3 years plus or minus to ignite it. I started my first company with a partner, and I left Citibank to start it, and we got acquired by Citibank, which is kind of fun, but that did it. I mean, that really started it, and then I did another one after that, and another one after that. I haven't. The last time I worked for somebody on somebody's payroll was 25 years ago. Ever since then, I have been my own boss.
Well, when we first met, you had been in, I think, an investment banking company downtown.
Yes.
Well, Hamilton
Capital Group.
Right.
It was. I spent 7 years in investment banking, raising money and doing M&A transactions. And I loved the deal business, and I had learned that earlier in my career. And but I kind of typify that as the artist blue period. That, not to knock investment banking, but it's a hard way to make money. But it was something that I'll never ever forget, because it was unbelievably worthwhile in what I learned.
Lonnie, you've been at this a long time, and this just occurs to me. Yesterday, we were together at the meeting of the Entrepreneurs Network at Overbrook Golf Club. We had about 64 people there. As you will recall, we teed up 5 early-stage companies, one of which you brought down from Connecticut. Young husband and wife team, very bright, and
they really are.
Obviously committed to what they're doing and absolutely confident that they're going to make it.
Right.
They made a very good impression on the assemblage. But the difference between entrepreneurship, early stage ventures 25 years ago and today, in both the nature, well, technology obviously, and the internet has changed everything, but the nature of the businesses, the personalities of the people. Again, there was a time, at least my recollection is, entrepreneurs were looked upon as being just a little, at least 10 degrees off. At least 10 degrees.
Absolutely.
They were not the kind of people you want to live next door, next to, maybe spend a little time with.
I remember. That's funny. That's changed. It's funny you say that. One of my best friends in high school, his dad had his own little electronics firm.
Yeah.
And in fact, we worked there on weekends, stuffing boards and stuff. But I remember my parents, kind of talking about him and saying, I wonder how he makes a living doing that. And it was like, yes, that was the way they were viewed. Yet today there are pioneers today. They have the virtual covered wagons.
Yes.
And I mean, it's phenomenal. And see, that's where that's where my passion comes from, is to see that, where they're almost drooling, where they believe so much. And and of course there's a limit to that as well. That's the other extreme. But see, the interesting thing about today is it is so much easier.
Maybe
do it.
Too easy.
And that may be it. Because anybody with an idea and a laptop can literally start a business. Now, whether that business makes any sense or not, whole other story.
But those businesses, those nascent businesses, really do suck up an awful lot of oxygen.
They do.
In the entrepreneurial community. Yeah. Because again, I from my own experience, I've heard you say it, and many others have said it, they look at an awful lot of deal flow. Most of it isn't worth the paper it's on. You still look for the magic about one deal. It's got a little bit different. Maybe it's the combination of the idea and the people behind it. Yes. Or the experience, the track record, and so on. Yep. See, awfully hard to find.
There are an awful lot of entrepreneurs who think they've discovered fire.
Yes.
That's the only way I could describe it. Yeah. And it's like, nah, fire's been discovered already. Sorry to tell you about this. But they're so committed, and they think that they've seen something that no one else has seen.
Yeah.
No.
You know what you just brought to mind? Yesterday I heard in our meeting, I think at least 2, possibly 3 people who say, "Yeah, we're working on a new LED lighting."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
Everybody seems to be working on LED lighting.
Exactly. I mean, well, it's like the folks who came yesterday who have a product that the Boomer product that was basically a competitive entry against Kimberly-Clark.
Oh yes.
And I said, guys, you figure that it's going to take you 2-3 years to get this thing rolling, right?
Right.
So you figure what? Kimberly-Clark's going to just kind of go to the sidelines while that's happening? They're going to pay attention to you, okay? They're going to copy you. Because what happens is oftentimes, this is the other thing, is products
As a matter of fact,
and ideas.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
I am enamored of that particular
I am
product.
too. I am too. And here's
And
my
when I've asked them that question, because they know the competition, they know
Yeah,
the space,
they
they
absolutely
spent
do.
15, 20 years in it. They said, no, the Kimberly-Clarks, the Procter & Gamble, they were asleep at the switch. There is no innovation, no motivation.
Right.
To invest, to change, to offer something different because they dominate the market.
Except for one thing.
So these guys hope to sneak in
They hope
under.
to sneak in. Here's the thing. What happens somewhere? Somebody, and I don't know where the tablets of stone came from, but somebody said, "Hey, if you have a great idea, make sure you patent it."
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Don't make sure you patent it. The reason, make sure you patent it under 2 circumstances. Circumstance number 1, you got a really good game plan, and you're going to roll that sucker out right away. Number 2 is you better have some fairly deep pockets to defend that.
Yes.
Because, one of the chapters in that book, one of the blog posts that I have is, instead of patenting that product, why don't you just put your plans up on a billboard on the New Jersey Turnpike?
And I saw that. I read that. But it's a catch-22 because without a patent, investors aren't going to pay attention to you. It's one of the first questions they ask, right?
Exactly. And because it's a block that they have to check off. The problem with that is, that's old. That's really old.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Okay.
So there's a whole new, I hate this word, paradigm
Yeah.
to investing and growing.
You see, here's what I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting don't get a patent. No,
It's when.
no.
It is when and under what
when
circumstances.
and under what circumstances. Because get the patent to protect you, but get the patent to make sure you can defend it. Because if you can't, you're just opening the door.
Sure.
Because once your patent is approved, it's public.
You just hit the neon switch.
Yes.
The LED lights.
Yes. You're no longer under the radar. You're right in the middle of things.
You said something earlier. And I'm going to paraphrase now, the difference between tenacity, like the young people yesterday, tenacity and being irrationally fixated. In spite of everything, in spite of all the evidence, you're right, everybody else is wrong. You're just going to push your way through. And the corollary to that is what kind of wisdom, what kind of experience, what goes into knowing when to fold, to save, keep whatever's left of your powder dry, so you can come back another day.
I wish I had words of wisdom for that, because when you said that, there were at least 2 or 3 faces that popped up in my head of entrepreneurs that were like that. It's like, you just shake your head and you say, you're never going to do this. But you don't want to see. You know me. I'm kind of an in-your-face sort of guy. But I don't like to kill dreams. Okay. Yeah. But the other side of it is, and so I do it as softly as I can until they won't listen, and then I have to do it hard. But what I say to them is, you're not going to make this work because of all of these reasons.
Well, you had another client to whom you introduced us a while back. A software product for the education, higher education, I think.
Yep.
Online learning.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
And I remember you were sharing with me that passion was there, the knowledge was there, really knew the space, but the model wasn't right.
It was flawed.
And, and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and they were getting nowhere.
Yeah, it was, and they have since backed off a little bit and tried to go at it a little differently. But you see, entrepreneurs are like people. I mean, they are people. I mean, when you come down to it, I mean, entrepreneurial companies, I mean, are like people. And that is, there's some people that you know that have, they've got a 25-year career in a particular company or job, whatever. Usually when that happens, they don't have a 25-year history. They usually have 1-year history 25 times.
Right.
Companies are like that. Companies get that way. This was a company very typical. They had been around for 10 years or something.
Yes.
And they weren't a 10-year-old company. They were a 1-year-old company 10 times.
Yes.
And you know, and that had they understood early what they had, and they niched it, because what I got them to do was to niche tighter. And what the focus was then totally, and is today, is simply on community colleges, because that's where their success had been. So why do you want to go over here where you don't have any success?
In a market where there's money.
Yes, and where the major competitors all are, where there are there's less competition over here. And that's, but back to your question, it's a very fine line between perseverance and stupidity. I mean, that's harsh, but it's a fact. There are some people who just beat their head against the wall until it's bloody.
On the other hand, as you know, all the talk these days about innovation by design, about Steve Jobs and the way he approached problem solving, getting ahead of the market, anticipating, and so on. This new generation coming up, and I've been studying this for a while because of a project I'm working on, seems to be taking the approach, and seems to have been schooled this way and wired this way. It's not an either-or solution, so there's no single right way.
Right,
That's one.
right.
Two, going back to one of your earlier points, failure is and should be seen only as a milestone on the way to success. So you learn from those experiences. Otherwise, it is failure.
Yes.
It's a waste of resources.
Yep.
Furthermore, an idea doesn't have to be completely developed in order to move on it, take it to market, etc.
Absolutely.
You continue to experiment. It's an iterative process.
That's
quite different.
That's the lean startup. That's the lean startup way of doing
That's
things.
quite different from the old GE model or any of the other large big brands that methodically marched from A to B, and it was in a straight line.
Absolutely. And see some of when we talk about this fine line between perseverance and stupidity, typically they are marching still that same line.
Yes.
They're the Albert Einstein. I mean, as I said to you before, I always have 6 or 8 blog posts, and I have one, just the title. So, do you think Albert Einstein was thinking about entrepreneurial companies with his phrase? Because there are some companies that are like that. They keep doing the same thing, expecting something different to happen. No, they're the guys who learn from the iterative process. See, the question I get probably more than anyone is, what's the best piece of advice you could give an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's on my second page.
Oh, good. I'm happy that I read the pages. Yes. And it's very simple. Go get customers. Period. And that's so logical. Yeah, but see, no, we have to finish the product. Well, the product is like this, and we need some market surveys. Go get customers. Get your product in the customer's hands. Customer will tell you if it's any good.
Yes.
Okay. Customer will even tell you what else needs to be in there.
Yes.
Okay. Or he'll tell you, no, you can't do it this way. At least you have data points that are real now. They're not theoretical anymore.
But the inherent inefficiency in that approach is what bothers older folk like me and the older generation. Because we were schooled to be efficient.
Well, but the reason
to be efficient was virtuous.
The reason,
don't waste resources.
Sure, but you see,
don't waste time.
Here's back to the probably my favorite author, blogger, what have you, today is Seth Godin.
Yes.
And his theory
the
purple cow, but his theory about our educational system, for example, is like he has a essay / ebook about the educational system called "Stop Stealing Dreams." It's phenomenal. But his focus, what he says is our educational system was created around the industrial age, where what we were trying to do is create factory workers.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, entrepreneurship, our mindset in our generation is that one because, well, it was product iteration is expensive.
Yes.
And, well, because you're manufacturing stuff. Manufacturing, God, I can, when I have a software product or a services product, I could do iterations overnight.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
When I remember working at Citibank, working for John Reed, and John said, if a development has to take longer than 12 months, we should not do it because we can't keep requirements still long enough. Well, in those days, it used to take 18, 24 months to get projects done. Here, today, it's the iterative process, 30 days.
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal.
And we could spend time talking about the intergenerational differences in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But before we run out of time, I want to get to your book, The Entrepreneur's Yoda. Is Yoda something that comes down from the mountains with shaggy hair and large feet? Is that a Yoda?
No. What happened with that is there's a little story about that. I was doing a turnaround about 6 years ago, and it was two divisions that I was consolidating and a part of a holding company. And there were two other divisions, and really bright young guys running them. And I was telling this old friend of mine that I said, these guys keep coming to me for advice. I said, geez, wasn't I just a young lion like them, like last week?
Yes.
And I said, now I'm Yoda. Jump ahead a couple of years, and I did my last turnaround. I said, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I want to go back, and all I want to do is spend the rest of my time advising entrepreneurs. And he and I were having breakfast, and I said, I'm gonna create a brand and the like. And he said, hey, how about that Yoda idea? I said, well, how about that? So the first brand really started I branded my blog, The Entrepreneur's Yoda, and then went from that. And I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm actually coming out with a video series that are video guides. It's called Yoda's Wisdom.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And there'll be a whole series of things. But this book was a labor of love. It's a compilation of blog posts, compilation editing and organization of blog posts. But it's organized such that the whole idea was you could pick this book up at any time and go to a page and learn something and use it.
And that's exactly what I did, because I have the attention span of a gnat. So the fact that these are short bursts of brilliance, I really liked. I liked the culture you create is the soul of your enterprise, because it's something I preach in my teaching and in my writing. Culture, culture, culture.
Absolutely.
I read someplace, I'm going to put the question to you now. When you're called in to do a turnaround or to take a company from where it is to the next level,
right?
What is the first thing you do? The first step in whatever process you follow?
Well, I mean, I guess the first thing I interview people. I mean, but I walk around the building.
Looking for what?
A feeling, not looking, feeling.
A culture?
Yeah.
The culture.
The culture. Because you can, I can walk into a company now after being in and out of probably 5,000, 10,000 companies, whatever, over the years, all the different businesses I've been in, and I get a sense of this company. Okay, and it's it's amazing. And you can get it from the externals as well.
Yes.
I preach. I talk about customers all the time. For early entrepreneurs, it's get customers as early as you can, and then love them to death, okay? For companies, as they keep going, that's what you've got to do. But if you want to love your customers more, love your employees more.
Yes.
Because your employees will reflect exactly how they're treated to the customer. Think about the great customer service organizations, Zappos. The employees love working there. At Virgin Atlantic, Southwest.
Yes.
All of those companies, the employees are evangelists. How do we miss that?
Lonnie, I do not want to minimize anything you've said, but it strikes me. I've been in HR, consulting, performance management for 37, closing in on 40 years. And what strikes me is, first of all, there are only 14 original ideas in the whole world. So what you just said, I mean, we've been preaching that for years.
Yes.
There's nothing, forgive
No,
me, there's nothing
nothing
new
new.
about it.
No.
It's either that they aren't listening,
Yes.
or we have a new generation of management owners coming in who have to be told all over again that what was true then is as true today, if not truer, because people are buying as much on emotion, and that's part of the value proposition.
Yep.
How I feel about your brand, how I feel about your people, how I'm treated.
Yes. The social media aspect of things has opened the door. And now the interesting thing is, I think that this stuff that we've been preaching for years,
Yes.
the stage is right. The stage is right for it to maybe take, because see, the social media. This is what this is about. It's more. It's better communication. It's more and better communication.
Yes.
Even if it's 140 characters, better 140 than none.
Yes.
And better 140 that mean something than 1,400 that mean nothing.
You're doing a lot of speaking now.
Yes.
And that's part of your new brand. The writing, the blogging, the speaking, and
Right.
so on. Going through the table of contents, I assume that there is a presentation behind every single one of these titles.
Actually,
Or could be.
or there's a couple of them together. For example, the culture one is a standard one that I do. Exit, and exit. The interesting thing about exit is that I help entrepreneurs. I've done this. I've done more than a dozen entrepreneurial exits where I help them sell their company, maximize the value, and leave a legacy. It's important.
Yeah.
And it's the metaphor I use for them, because what I do is I don't do the legal and I don't do the accounting. Okay, what I do is the business and the psychological.
Yes.
And I start with a metaphor that says, think of it this way: you're about to put your child up for adoption. That's the metaphor I want you to think about, because that's how we're going to go. And then, second thing is, we're going to do due diligence on the buyer.
Yeah.
To see if the cultures
Yes.
fit. Because otherwise, these people who you've lived with for the last 15, 20 years and spent more time with than your own family will hate you.
Yes. Yep. So true. The book is Secrets to Entrepreneurial Success by Lonnie Sciambi. It is available on Amazon. Any local supermarkets? No?
It's in Barnes & Noble. But it's on Amazon both as a softback and Kindle.
But they can also get it on your website.
They can get a free chapter actually on my website today.
What could be better?
Yeah, they could download a free chapter and test drive it.
Giving entrepreneurs an edge, learned from years in the entrepreneurial trenches. Lonnie Sciambi, the entrepreneur's Yoda. Entrepreneurs. I'll have to watch for that. Delighted to have you here today. Hope to have you back when you have even more stories and stories about the success. Is there a fourth book in the works already?
Yeah, there's a book. There's a couple of them actually.
Maybe a movie?
We're thinking about that, but we're really trying to figure out who will play me.
I'm not even going to go there. Thank you so much for being here.
Rick, thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you. Until next time, this is the Entrepreneurs Network. I am Rick Anthony. Take very good care of yourselves.